Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers are trying to move out of the play-in section of the bracket, and tonight's game against Sacramento will go a long way to getting them there. We'll preview it next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always free. It's never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 23,000 subscribers to the channel, all of whom, Andy, are wondering what exactly the Lakers are going to show tonight against Sacramento, a critical game for the Lakers. When you look at the Western Conference standings, the Lakers a game and a half behind the Kings. The Kings are slumping. They are one of the few teams in the West that has looked kind of consistently vulnerable over the last couple of weeks, Andy. The Mavericks, a little bit of a skid, but had been playing quite well to that point. Sacramento's been going the wrong way in the standings for a little while now. So this one is a huge, huge game for the Lakers to try to get themselves a little bit higher in the West.
The example I'm about to give, because it doesn't offer the exact same standings jumping possibilities, but it reminds me of how we talked about that game with the Clippers heading into it. The Clippers had been scuffling. You know, they were 4-4 in their last 8 before the Lakers had played them. Their 4 losses had been by double digits and all against good teams. And it felt like, if nothing else, you're dealing with a vulnerable opponent. And the Kings right now feel like they could be vulnerable. They are all hands on deck. They have no injuries. They're fully healthy, all of that stuff. But they have not been playing great lately. And this is a real opportunity for the Lakers to gain ground on them. And, you know, they are currently 0-2 against the Kings this season. What's interesting about it to me, as we start to look ahead to this matchup and some of the things that jumped out at us in terms of the things the Lakers need to be mindful of to get the win, both of these games happen within the first 12 of the season. The first loss was in overtime, 3rd game of the year, and the second game was the 12th game of the year. So like 50 games have passed since the second game and where we are now. To put it mildly, there have been many incarnations of the Lakers since then. So
honestly, I don't even, I think they're so long ago at this point that even if some of the same players are playing, Jared Vanderbilt was injured at that point. Jared Vanderbilt is injured again. Like, there are, I guess, some parallels that you can make, but the Lakers are a different team at this point, and I am assuming the Kings are as well. Reminder, you can catch every minute of the Lakers hometown broadcasts on the with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Lakers. Tip is at 7:30 tonight. I think once you start getting 10, 20, 30, 50 games beyond, this is a new series. But, the issue is too, the Lakers have 2 more games against the Kings. And if they want to at least put themselves in a place where other tiebreakers are relevant, I believe it would be conference record at that point. And, there's still some time before that would shake out. They need to win both of them. And otherwise, they have to pass Sacramento. And things are so tightly bunched in the West between the Warriors, Jazz, Mavericks, Kings. I'll throw the Suns in there, the Pellies, if they lose a couple games in a row, that these tiebreaker matchups start to really become important. And the Lakers obviously don't have it on Dallas. They do have it on Phoenix. All this kind of stuff. If they can gain it or give themselves an opportunity.
They currently have it on the Pelicans.
They do. Where are they with Golden State? I think they have it, I believe.
They do have it,
yeah.
I believe, at the moment. Yes.
So, these are all little advantages that become really important as you start to get, under 20 games left in the season. And so I want to know, like, from them, and obviously we'll watch, like, the Lakers have quietly had a good record. If you take that section out, that where they were just god awful after the IST, they were pretty good going in. I think they're like, I think I saw the record 17-10 since that middle section and they've started to turn around, which is a pretty good record. But like at times it has been uninspiring. We did a show, I think that was Monday's show, or it might have been over the weekend, kind of with that theme, like this idea that like, okay, yeah, they've been winning, but at times you don't feel like they're necessarily a good team. They came out and played most of a good game against Denver, and then played all but the first 5 minutes of a great game against Oklahoma City. So if you do that again against Sacramento, if you do that again through the rest, like now I don't know where Anthony Davis kind of talked about this. I don't know where you're going to end up in the standings. Like, and it kind of is what it is. And we'll see if we maybe get to that a little bit before the end of the show. But the quality of the play is what's really going to define how far they can go in the playoffs.
It's interesting in terms of that idea of the Lakers winning a lot of games, but not necessarily inspiring confidence in the process. Part of that is because the type of win they had over OKC, which was by 12, but had garbage time not really been.
They were up by 25 in the fourth quarter.
Exactly. And garbage time went all the Thunder's way, but it doesn't matter other than how it affects the final score. But that type of double-digit win has been really rare for the Lakers. Like, they have not done that a lot, even when they've won games, even when they've won like a few in a row. They've rarely had those type of beatdowns. And what I think is also interesting about that is, I've talked about this a few times over the last couple of weeks, the Lakers are the only team in the entire NBA with a winning record, but a negative point differential. They're currently at minus 0.3. The next closest team to them, not just in the West, but the entire NBA, is the Kings with a plus 0.3. Like, they're the next lowest point differential, which I think, A, again, another reminder that you're talking about a team that's kind of vulnerable right now, but B, another team that, if you want to know why, at least I see a lot of skepticism about the Sacramento Kings, that is among a few reasons. I think that they don't strike a lot of people. They don't get talked about a lot in terms of the West, even though they have, to the best of my recollection, never been out of the playoff.
No, but I think they are not making progress based on last year. They had a great season last year. This the first good season for Sacramento in ages, and they have struggled much more this year than last. And then they got off to a kind of a very mid start. Started to play really well, but then, like you say, it's Sacramento. They're not going to get talked about a whole lot anyway. But like, they've just not played particularly well. And so you look at it, again, 35 wins for the Kings, or for the Suns, 34 for the Kings, 34 for the Mavericks, 34 for the Lakers, 32 for the Warriors. The difference, of course, is in the loss column. The Lakers have played more games than all of these teams. They've got, the Kings have 3 games in hand on the Lakers, which, by the way, is another reason the Lakers really need to take advantage of these 2 games against Sacramento, because not only does Sacramento then, if they win either one of them, they have the tiebreaker, they've also got more games to play. And so the Lakers, being 3 games behind them in the loss column, can't afford to fall 4 or 5 and expect to actually catch them in the standings. So we'll look at a couple things related to this game, stuff to watch for, players to watch for, things that we think will make a difference. Plus, Andy, an encouraging update on Gabe Vincent, who some people might remember as a player the Lakers signed in the offseason, but haven't seen much of since then. So we'll bring you all of that news next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by eBay Motors, and passion, drive, patience. That is what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whatever you need, power, speed, style, if that's what you're into, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what it is you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive with ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers.
So I will cop to the fact that I have a soft spot for the Kings. I always appreciate teams that are sort of trying to turn things around and, go from being god awful. I feel the same way about Minnesota, by the way. It's like it's nice to see teams and fan bases that are passionate about their teams, and Lord knows Kings fans are, actually get rewarded with good basketball. I'm a big fan of Mike Brown, like the person. I think he's just a great guy that I would like to see do well. Happy to see the progress that they've made in Sacramento. I am a huge fan of De'Aaron Fox. Love watching him play, and I think Domantas Sabonis is still kind of one of the more underrated players in the NBA, despite all the numbers and accolades that he's been getting in the last couple of years. So all that aside, Andy, I like this team. I like watching them. I think they have the potential to be one of the more fun teams in the NBA. And one of the things that I think is cool is they are an interesting matchup for the Lakers based on stuff they do well versus stuff the Lakers don't. Stuff Sacramento doesn't necessarily do well that could play into the Lakers' strength. And I know you've dug up a few numbers and matchup items that you are looking forward to, and I know I have one of my own as well.
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is the battle between Anthony Davis and Domantas Sabonis. Even though every single possession may not come down mano-a-mano between those guys, the game is going to be viewed in a lot of ways, I think, through the lens of that matchup. And if you look back at the two losses the Lakers had, Sabonis played well in both games, and in particular in the second one, he put up 29, 16, and 7 with 3 steals and absolutely outplayed Anthony Davis, who had 9 points on 3 of 9 shooting, 9 rebounds, and 5 turnovers. And the last couple of years, Sabonis has played the Lakers really, really well. Like, in particular, he has been beasting on the boards. He gets a lot of assists, and he can score. And it's interesting too to see this on the heels of AD coming up huge, playing really well against Oklahoma City and Chet Holmgren, but on the heels of a game where he got massively outplayed and out-physical and just out-presenced by Nikola Jokic. Sabonis is first of all, he's better than Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren is a good player, but Sabonis is better than him. He's also a very different type of player. He's a very different cover. He is a much more physical player than Chet Holmgren. And, stopping him isn't going to be only AD's responsibility. I'm sure Rui will see time on him. I'm sure LeBron will. But again, this is going to be viewed through that lens of AD versus Sabonis, their production matched against each other, the impact against each other. And very often as AD goes, so does this team. And the best version of this team often is the best version of Anthony Davis. And in a critical win, AD needs to, at minimum, play Sabonis to a stalemate, if not just flat out outplay him.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these things where, like, your star, needs to be as good as their star. Like for starters, first things first, this is one of the things that needs to happen. Your starters need to be as good as their starters. Or your stars need to be as good as theirs. And the Lakers, while we saw it against Oklahoma City, certainly have the capacity to to make up a little bit on the margins for lesser performances or lesser scoring, at the very least, from a guy like Davis, from a guy like LeBron or whatever, Austin Reeves and Rui when he's rolling, and so on and so on and so on. It does start, with your best players. And it's like AD, it's not even just the points. It's not the issue with the Jokic game in Denver wasn't only that. Jokic outscored AD. It's also that he like you sort of used presence as almost like a verb. Like he out presence.
It was meant to be a verb.
Yeah. So like that's the issue. Like AD can have a massive impact on games that he scores 18 points in, on the glass with 15, 16 rebounds, with 3 or 4 blocks, altering shots, changing things, getting offensive rebounds, all that kind of stuff. I think the Lakers against the best teams are need all of it. They're going to need the 25 points to 30 points plus the defensive presence, but it is presence. And I think so often with AD, that's one of the things that you kind of don't get. Let me rephrase that. When the criticisms come, it's because the presence isn't enough. It's not just the scoring output, the statistical output, whatever. It's that you didn't feel him enough over the course of the game. And that in this stretch that the Lakers are in can't happen. I think this is one of these games where strength versus weakness could be a really big deal. The Lakers, as everyone knows, the Lakers shoot more free throws than anybody. They have the biggest free throw differential.
Not lately.
Not lately. But and technically speaking, they do not shoot more free throws than anybody, but they have the largest differential.
Not lately.
Sacramento, I know we're talking about the whole season here.
No, I know. I'm just pointing out lately they have not been getting a lot of calls. I'm not saying it as a complaint. I'm not saying.
Well, LeBron got smacked in the head in that Oklahoma City game, and they didn't call it.
I am simply pointing out a fact that as of late, the Lakers have not been getting a lot of calls to the line, which, if nothing else, is worth noting because it means they have to find other ways to score.
Yeah. But that said, one of the things that was so impactful about Anthony Davis against Oklahoma City was 11 trips to the free throw line. That is a huge factor for the Lakers. The Lakers are 5th in the league in free throw attempts. Sacramento, who are worst free throw shooting team by percentage, also happen to be a bottom 3rd team in attempts. So they don't get to the line very often. And when they do get to the line, they don't do very well. And they put their opponents on the line. They've given up the 8th most free throws in the league. So this is one of those places where if the Lakers can play to their strengths, this isn't even do something different. This is don't get away from what you do well. Don't get away from playing defense without fouling. Don't, turnovers is not necessarily something, but if you can avoid turning the ball over, you can avoid putting yourself in a position where Sacramento can draw fouls that they otherwise would not be inclined to do. Nobody on that team, I believe, averages more than 2 free throws made per game outside of Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. So don't take Malik Monk and give him 8 trips to the line for no good reason, because he'll make them. He's a good free throw shooter. So that I think is one of these places where can the Lakers maintain one of their season-long strengths, which is both getting to the line, which Sacramento has a tendency to allow, but most importantly, keeping the Kings off the line so that other aspects of their offense are not as damaging.
Yeah, you mentioned Sacramento allowing teams to get to the line. Before coming up after the break, I got one more thing to watch for in this game. But for people who are familiar with Mike Brown's entire career, both as a coach and as assistant, and his reputation as a defense guy first, the Kings are basically the dead ass opposite of everything you associate with Mike Brown. They are a terror offensively, and they cannot guard anybody. They are a really bad defensive team that is a nightmare to cover. And Mike Brown. That's
actually the biggest difference. I mean, without getting too that's the biggest difference between last year and this year for them.
But for most of Mike Brown's career, his teams have been really, really good defensively, but they often struggle to score. This year's team is the reverse. They have no problem scoring, but they don't defend particularly well.
Yeah, and I like these sorts of tests, where the Lakers, would you say this is a should win? I think, obviously it's not a, but I think this is definitely a should win. Like,
Yes.
I wouldn't have put Oklahoma City in that category. Wouldn't have put Denver. Those are
Actually, I
coulds.
would have put OKC in. I would have put OKC in that because they've matched up really well against Oklahoma City. And I think the reasons are very logical and out on the court. So yeah, I would have put it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but I would definitely, so I would put that in the can category. But like, this is a should. This to me feels like a game they should win, and frequently against the better teams in the league when they've had these moments of should win. There haven't been that many of them, given where the Lakers have been over the course of the season. Their track record isn't great, but they're really only a game or two, I think, away from starting to really solidify something a little bit more meaningful and that feels a little bit more permanent. Again, as Anthony Davis says, regardless of where they end up in the standings, because it may be too hard to move up significantly now. Let's talk one more matchup item to watch tonight and some Gabe Vincent news that is actually good. And so we'll get to all that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by BetterHelp, and we all need an opportunity to get things off our chest, to talk with people who are good at understanding you. They can be unbiased in your life, give you good perspective, whether you're talking about big or small things. And look, we try on this show to give people an escape from their problems, an escape from real life, channel all of that stuff into the Lakers that we're all passionate about. But as much as, Laker game can feel like life or death, we all know there are more pressing issues than what happens with the purple and gold. And we all have problems bigger than that. And I know it's helped me during a difficult period in my life with my family, talking with a professional. Therapy can be really helpful. It can be really different for different people. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible, suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. It's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Quick dip into the Department of Corrections and Retractions. The Kings actually were worse than I thought last year. I thought they were more mid-ish and have slipped this year. They were not so good last year either. So,
again, they are the bizarro Mike Brown team.
My memory betrayed me. I am getting older, so that happens. So yeah, there you go. They weren't that good defensively last year either, but have just slipped generally relative to their performance overall. Quick reminder that tonight's game, 7:30 tip. You can catch every minute of Lakers hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Lakers. You had one more thing to watch.
Yeah, the Lakers got to be mindful of the three-point line on a couple levels. That they need to remember to shoot enough of their own, just because we've talked about this before. This can be a math thing. And the Lakers, especially now that they can make them, they need to make sure they're taking them. But the Kings for the season have shot them really well, but they shoot a ton of them. And the Lakers have sometimes, frankly, frequently this season, allowed teams to scorch them from deep, and also allowed guys who normally don't do that take advantage of being basically dared enough times to shoot until all of a sudden they fall into a rhythm and they become the second coming of Steph Curry. Thankfully, there are not a lot of guys on the Kings that take threes with regularity that you would just concede them as a strategy. Like, other than Domantas Sabonis, who's just mentally hard to ignore given who he is, pretty much everyone on the Kings who takes threes with any regularity at all is a credible three-point shooter. So on one hand, that makes them, tougher guys to stop, and if they get going, they can really hurt you. But on the other hand, I think it will mentally keep the Lakers more engaged just in that area.
You don't have that dude where you're programmed to let them start shooting and become, like you say, the second coming of Steph.
Also really quick, since the All-Star break, De'Aaron Fox has been in a deep three-point slump, shooting about 22%. And Keegan Murray has also been really cold in March. Really important the Lakers do not allow them to catch a rhythm. You need to keep them just disjointed and struggling from that area because, again, big deal for the Kings.
The Lakers have had a lot of non-news on Gabe Vincent for most of the season, or when the news comes, it's going to be like, yeah, he's not back yet. Or he might need surgery, or he'll be back in 8 weeks. Well, Shams Charania on Monday reported that he's doing Vincent, not Shams, is doing a lot more on-court work and is pushing towards a return in March, which is encouraging. Lakers are reportedly going to give a more detailed update on both Vincent and Vanderbilt next week, but I guess Shams, as he often is ahead of the game in terms of that. So I got to be honest with you, Andy. I have been working under the assumption that we would not see Gabe Vincent for the rest of the year. And so to hear that he's actually ramping up work and doing it well enough that people are comfortable leaking it tells me that he is going to be somebody the Lakers might actually get a chance to put back in the rotation in one way or another, at least have available.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago there being selective leaks about Kendrick Nunn being closer to returning, or Trevor Ariza and things like that never happened.
That season never started because Trevor was never ready to play.
A lot of levels that season never started, but I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic at best in terms of when this happens, just because this clearly has been a difficult injury for Gabe Vincent to work through. Mm-hmm. He was hoping to avoid surgery, then he had to have surgery, and there's been a lot happening with this knee fusion. Also, too, it is obviously, I guess, on balance, better to have the option of Gabe Vincent than not, even though at the risk of sounding like a jerk, sometimes Darvin and options have not led to good things. He's been prone to some paralysis by analysis.
Especially when you're also sometimes choosing between too many of the same kind of guy.
Yes, there have been times where I felt like it is best for Darvin to just have the most obvious choices in front of him. But that aside, on paper, it is better to have the option of Gabe Vincent than not, if for no other reason than you have no idea who will or will not stay healthy. But unless we're talking much closer to, say, mid-March than late March, which was the time frame that Shams gave, I am skeptical about the ability to integrate. I wouldn't even say reintegrate because he's played 5 games. It is integrating Gabe Vincent to a totally new team this late in the season, where really you're just trying to build as much momentum and cohesion and synergy heading into what hopefully will be the playoffs. This is usually the time where you're whittling down your rotation anyway, as opposed to expanding your options. I am skeptical about the ease with which they can make this happen, unless it's going to happen pretty damn soon.
Well, look, certain things are undeniably true. It is hard to play 4 guards. It just is. Like, to have a true 4-guard rotation, especially when you have LeBron James, who functions as a guard for a lot of his time on the floor, it gets difficult. And I'm not saying there aren't any minutes available for Vincent at all, but, especially you've got size questions. He's not a big guard. And so, there are skill sets there that could be handy, but it's not like you're putting in a guy who's like a 6'6", 6'7", unusually long, unusually tall guard. That's not him. So that's an issue. It's like, I think this becomes like how much we see of Gabe Vincent is probably as much a function when the time comes of how well Spencer Dinwiddie has actually started to play. I mean, we talked last week, Andy, certainly the everydayers will remember, like Darvin is working hard to try to get Dinwiddie going and Dinwiddie, untracked. And he didn't score a lot against Oklahoma City, but he was very active defensively. It was part of the Lakers rally. It was a positive contributor, but ultimately And he's had a couple games over the last year, he's up around 6, 8, 10 points or whatever, but he's playing significant minutes. He's not playing, scoring 8 points in 14 minutes. He's scoring 6 points in 22 minutes or 9 points or 10 points, which is a pretty high outcome in 22 or 23. So it's like they ultimately are going to need him. If he's going to play, they're going to need him to score as well as defend and move the ball around a little bit or whatever. But I mean, I think what we're getting towards before it's all said and done is essentially what amounts to an 8-man rotation, especially if Jared Vanderbilt is unable to play.
Yeah, and Vando, by the way, there was nothing attached to that update about Vincent with Vando, but like Vando is a guy that, assuming he is able to come back and he can be a healthy enough, active enough, effective enough player, I'm not worried about the ramp up with him or whatever, because he has familiarity with this team. Like, he knows how to play with the Lakers. Plus, he is so not just important to this team, but singular in terms of what he can provide that pretty much nobody else on the roster can. Like, if Vando can play, you put him back in the rotation.
The only question is whether or not he can be effective, because when he first came back from his injury, his first injury, the one that started the season that cost him 20 games, he wasn't good because he wasn't up to speed. He wasn't fit. He wasn't, he was rounding into form. He really didn't have much of a training camp. And for, certain players can kind of get by without a little bit of their speed or a little bit of their athleticism or a little bit of their, hop. He is not one of them. He needs all of that stuff to be as effective as he can be, to stay enough of a positive and mobile enough offensively that his defensive positives don't get kind of swallowed up. Like, he needs that juice, but they will 1000% give him some minutes to try to find out if it's there, because like you say, they don't have anybody else who can do it. Whereas with Vincent, while, he, I guess, profiles as a better defender than, or a potential plus defender to add into the mix that the Lakers have. They also have 3 other, name brand guards on this team and LeBron James. So, the need, that's why Dinwiddie is here, is because, Vincent was unable to play.
Yeah, I would say if it starts becoming more apparent that Reddish just is not physically back, he seems to be somebody who has difficulty getting all the way back from injuries for whatever reason. I can't possibly even speculate on the reasons. That has been a pattern for Reddish. I don't think he has looked really physically back since his return. So if, say, he was ineffective, or say Taurean Prince, good game against OKC notwithstanding, the slump that he had been in continued, even perhaps undersized, maybe some opportunity for Vincent, if he looks right, could open up with those guys minutes. But I generally feel like the rotation of players that Darvin wants to play is pretty much in front of him right now, Vanderbilt notwithstanding. So I just wonder, respectfully to Vincent, I wonder if it is actually worth the effort, depending on when this happens, to try to put him back into the rotation and try to rework everything.
And they may not, if they're, we're still talking about another 5-10 games,
right?
Probably they may not. And so we'll see, but at the very least, it's good to get news that he's doing stuff, because that, like I said, exceeded my expectations. Big game for the Lakers tonight, 7:30 is a tip. We, of course, will be here afterwards, break it all down. Locked On Lakers on YouTube. So we're going to go see the show, hang out with over 23,000 subscribers. We'll see everyone after the game.